This meeting of the Margate Planning Board is called to order. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Tom Collins.
Here.
Clem Wozleski. Rich Patterson.
Here.
Mike Cristaldi. Here. Jim Galantino.
Here. You sure?
Margaret Gubernalty. Here. Craig Palmisano.
Here.
Despina Hess. Remy Pelosi. Here. Joe DiGirolamo. Ron Gruppo.
Here.
Mike Richmond.
This meeting is being held in accordance with due public notice thereof and pursuant to the New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the press, and a copy of same has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. All applicants are hereby advised that should you receive board approval tonight, you must come forward and sign a form which informs you regarding the timing of receiving building permits and mercantile licenses. At the end of your case tonight, please see the board administrator to sign the two information sheets. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the minutes of May 24th, 2018, and the closed session, April 26th, 2018.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. I'd like to hear a motion for approval of decisions and resolutions, number 29, 2018, Stacy Coppinger.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Leo?
Sure. On Richard and Lori Goldstein, I received a request for a continuance to the July meeting, June 20th, 2018. They're going to submit some revised plans. I assume that's not if that's not an issue, I'll make that formal announcement.
Right.
Okay, so if anyone here in the public, if anyone from the public's here for the Richard and Lori Goldstein application, that's 23 North Delavan Avenue, block 204.02, lot 1. That is going to be continued until next month, July 26th, 6:30 p.m. in this room. The applicant is not required to republish or renotice.
Let the record show Mike Richmond's here. First case is Joseph Tozzi, 4-6 South Gladstone Avenue, block 108.02, lot 24 and 26 in the CBD district, to request an extension for 1 year for D variance for lot being less than 3,200 square feet, C variance for lot size, building coverage, front, rear, and side setback, landscaping and distance between buildings, and possibly others. Is anyone here for Mr. Tozzi?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. Last time I was here, you had your meeting at the old municipal building.
And they were at 7 o'clock.
Yes, they were. Thought I was early. My apologies. I think I'm good. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, for the record, Robert Bucking of the firm of Archer and Griner, representing Joseph Tozzi.
Is that the case?
Okay. Clem Wozleski is recusing himself? Are we just doing,
It's just an extension. For those board members who are not familiar with the project.
Before you get started, was there a D variance involved in this application initially?
There was a D variance, it was granted, it was requested if necessary.
Could we use the microphone?
Okay.
could you use a microphone?
And
Thank you.
if the initial, you can step down then, if this was a
The
D variance.
DNR is attached to our packets. Or the,
Yeah, for the record, Robert Buckman with the firm of Archer and Griner, representing the applicant, Joseph Tozzi. The application that was approved by this board on February 25, 2016 did involve a D variance, but it was a procedural safeguard at that point. The project involves a property that is currently a commercial parking lot area consisting of 12 spaces. The application was approved by the board, allowed for the 2-unit apartment building over top and the commercial parking below, as well as a continuation of the residential parking for that building. The CPD zone allows residential upper stories. This board granted a use variance in the event that it was deemed necessary to allow the apartment building without having commercial below, even though technically commercial parking was still remaining. So it was deemed to be appropriate at the time to grant a D variance to allow for the use of the property itself. In addition to the preliminary and final site plan approval of the use variance, the board granted a number of other bulk and area variances, which I think were described in our application submission. The application involves an approval that was granted by resolution adopted on May 26, 2016. We are asking for what would be the first of 3 discretionary 1-year extensions. Mr. Tosi has not been in a position to proceed with the development within the time frame originally envisioned because of economic conditions and otherwise, and we're simply asking for a 1-year extension.
Thank you. Any questions? How do we proceed?
I think we should technically open it to the public. I don't assume. Let me see.
Anyone here from the public that would like to comment? Public portion's closed.
If there's no other questions,
Is this the first extension?
first
It is.
1-year extension.
It is. End of May would have been the 2 years. This would take the approval to May of 2019.
Okay.
It'll run from May 26th.
May 26 to May 26, 2019.
Is it another 2-year extension?
1 year.
1.
1-year extension.
We'd be entitled to request up to 2 more 1-year extensions within the discretion of the board.
If
I
there's-
asked for 2.
No, 1 at a time, you said.
The request is for 1? You're just asking for 1
We're
year
just
right
asking for
now?
1 at this time, yes.
Okay. If there's no other questions from the board, I can frame a motion. We just need a motion to grant a 1-year extension of the site plan approval and related variances for this project, and that 1 year will run from the May 26, 2016 resolution.
Mr. Manos, if I may, if the board would prefer, a 2-year extension would be acceptable. We requested a 1-year extension. There's no notice required for the extension, but if the board is amenable to it, we could avoid having to go through this exercise next year. We're hoping to be able to start construction as soon as conditions allow for it, but if the board is amenable to granting a 2-year extension, we'd be glad
See any
to accept
problem
it.
with
Yeah, it's an application, doesn't
Fine.
require notice, so if the board
Yeah.
wants
Fine.
to, so that motion's amended to a 2-year extension, will take you to May 26, 2018.
that? 20.
2020.
This is
I'm
18.
losing my mind.
We want to gain one, not lose one.
2020. Okay, so someone just needs to make that
I'll
motion.
make the motion for extension.
I'll second it.
Rich Patterson?
Yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
Yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
Yes.
Craig Palmisano?
Yes.
Remy Pelosi?
Yes.
Ron Grupo?
Yes.
Mike Richmond?
Yes.
Okay, the application passes. You have your 2-year extension.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next case is Randy Grossman, 223 North Belmont Avenue, Block 502.02, Lot 52, in the S30 District, to grant a C variance relief for front yard setback, landscaping, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. McLaurin, would you be sworn in, please?
Mr. McCartney, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Chairman and Board members. My report is written on For the application of Randy Grossman at 223 North Belmont Drive, Block 502.02, Lot 52. They are in the A8 zone, and the variances identified are for hardship and substantial benefit. They're the proofs that they have to provide proof for. Background is as follows. The applicant is seeking relief from the ordinance of the City of Margate in order to expand an existing non-conforming front deck in regard to a front yard setback, both minimum and prevailing. As a consequence, the total landscaping becomes more non-compliant due to the enlargement of the deck. The shape of the lot is unique in that it is asymmetrical, but still maintains four sides, all of different lengths. But it does occupy a corner lot, so there are two front yards. The variances identified and confirmed are front yard setback for the porch on the south front, North Belmont Drive, whereas 11.3 feet is a required prevailing setback, 5 feet is the minimum setback. 4.6 feet exists and is proposed to be expanded at 4.6 feet also. The second variance identified as landscape coverage for overall coverage, whereas 35% is a minimum landscape coverage permitted, 33% exists, and 31% is proposed. Front yard landscape still complies. My comments are as follows. The front yard setback for the proposed deck porch along North Belmont Drive does not meet the required prevailing setback, nor does it meet the absolute minimum setback, and requires a variance. The total landscape coverage will be reduced and a variance is required. It appears that the required number of shrubs is being met. The existing driveway location does not meet the ordinance requirement, but is existing and not being expanded. The property has two frontages and is required to meet the street tree requirements. Front frontage is too narrow to install any trees and is too close to a driveway. No street trees currently exist on the property, so I recommend that 3 trees be placed along the larger face of the property. And this is a classic case of a hardship due to the size and shape of this property. That concludes my report at this time. I reserve the right to comment later.
Roger, where's the fourth frontage?
Right here.
Oh, the driveway, okay. So that's a front yard.
It's
too.
12.75.
Okay.
or 5.
Mr. Balance?
Asking the same question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Chris Balance, and I represent Randy and Jackie Grossman with respect to their application this evening for the property. They've owned it 223 North Belmont Drive, S30 zone, I'm sorry, block 302.02, lot 52. The application is really straightforward. It's as Roger points out, it's actually a four-sided lot, but it looks like a triangle, with the primary frontage being on North Belmont Drive. The request this evening is to expand the front porch the same depth as it is now, which is about approximately 7 feet, in the northerly direction, just to provide a little bit more outside living space. As you can see from the configuration of the lot, that's really the only outside living space that's available on that property. The Grossmans have decided to actually eliminate the concrete porch, replace it with a timber porch and a timber framed roof over it to replace the old style 1950s metal roof. If anything, that will also make the house look better. As Roger pointed out, it's really a classic case of a hardship based upon the configuration of the property and the fact that there's really no other usable outside space in order for the Grossmans to have an opportunity to sit outside, maybe have dinner with guests or friends, and to expand the front porch a little bit. Peter can touch upon just the plan that he prepared briefly, and then we can give you some justification and conclude.
Sure, just state your name for the record and business address, I'll swear you in.
Peter Weiss, 101 North Washington Avenue, Margate.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thanks.
Peter, let me just ask you a couple questions. The existing front yard setback to the porch is 4.6 feet,
Correct.
and that's going to be maintained with the porch expansion is going to be 4.6 feet as well?
Yes.
And the way you have drawn the porch in the northerly direction, you have designed it so that it meets the side yard setback on that side to the extent that is a side yard. We got a side and a rear, Roger?
2 sides.
Two
and 2
sides.
fronts.
It conforms to the side yard setback requirement?
Very much so, yes.
And as a result of the expansion, landscaping for the entire lot is reduced from 33% to 31% to 2% reduction.
Correct.
And that requires a variance as well.
Yes.
But the front yard landscaping, which is the primary, really, elevation is the entire lot, the front yard, what people see, that conforms to the ordinance. Do you see this plan, Peter, as having any substantial impact on any of the neighbors or on the zone plan or on the zoning ordinance? Okay, and as I said, the concrete porch will be replaced with a framed deck and a framed gable end and porch above.
Permanent roof, yes.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
They agree to the three acceptable trees?
I think the space on the plan looks a little bit bigger than it actually is. They will certainly do a tree, but the landscape.
One tree?
On the left side, if the board really wants to, they'll do 2 trees, but the landscaping there, because it's a really hot westerly exposure, will do it, but
106 feet.
they don't last. It's just an exposed hot corner, and
What will happen? The trees will die?
the trees, they haven't lasted. The landscaping, they have a problem maintaining the landscaping surviving because of the exposure that they get. That's all.
All right, they just have, how many feet?
Yeah, 3,
There's 106 feet.
But you're saying, I'm sorry, I
that's
misunderstood.
okay. We can't put them in the governor's strip because it's too narrow. So So they then have to go in the upland of the sidewalk. Okay. The landscaping plan meets ordinance requirements in terms of shrubs and grass in the front yard. Stuffing 3 trees in that front yard, I just think is too much.
2. 2.
How about a palm tree?
Doing grass would be nice, whatever, yeah.
Hard to tell.
Is the line of arborvitae's?
Cactus?
You do one here.
Cactus would work.
Okay. 2 trees?
Behind the sidewalk.
No.
How wide's the governor's strip, the grass strip?
It's like a 1.5 feet.
Oh, okay.
It's really narrow, yeah.
All right.
2 ornamental trees, is that on the grass area? Tell me what you want. Nothing crazy.
2 shade trees behind the sidewalk.
Okay, is that acceptable? Yeah, you guys have to be sworn. Behind the sidewalk means on this side, so not in the strip back there. You can put them wherever you want. Let Mr. Grossman address that.
Sure, just state your name and address, and I'll swear you in real quick.
Randy Grossman, 223 North Belmont, Margate.
And do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do, thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add that it's a very unique property, triangular shape, very minimal areas that could probably hold the shade tree. I guess worst case scenario, if we could be approved for 1 shade tree in that northern triangular corner of the property and maybe a couple of arborvitae types of plantings. I mean, the right front next to the driveway, there's already a small type of a tree and a lamp post, and it's going to be very awkward to use that, so that just leaves us the left side. So again, I would just ask for some consideration, just based on the very tight parameters of the property.
Mr. Patterson, the requirement for the 3 trees is a result of the length of the frontage, right? And it's a really oddly configured lot. They're kind of jammed with
That's fine.
significant amount of frontage, which
Yeah.
kicks up to 3.
But Roger said 2 trees, that's what he's talking about now.
Right, Mr. Grossman had asked for the board's consideration to do 1 tree, but the board will make that decision when you vote.
Just a quick question, Roger. Could they put 1 tree where they're talking, where it says lot 52, but you require a larger tree? Instead of a little twig? I mean, I understand what he's saying with the space he has here. Here.
I don't know. I see a little bit more space than what they're alluding to. 1
Mr.
large tree in the
McLaren?
corners, I'm fine with that.
Mr. McLean, how about some additional some shrubs, additional bushes?
How about 1 large shade tree in that 1 corner and a couple additional shrubs in the front?
That'd be great. No problem. Thank you.
You hang on one second.
Specify how large.
A dwarf tree is a tree.
I think we're okay.
What's that?
We're okay.
What's the address?
I think you got those two trees. Those trees mature, you're gonna give shade to the house.
Could you turn on your microphone, please?
I'm familiar with property as well.
Is this the house? Yes.
Can I, Pete? Well,
You know,
everybody,
Mr. Patterson, they'll do 2 ornamental decorative trees, if that's what the board's desire is, that's fine. The fancy little trees.
not fancy little trees, nice trees, big trees.
Rather have one more.
Shade the house.
Shade tree.
The 512
How
picture,
about one large shade tree, Chris?
One large shade tree's fine,
Okay.
okay? Great.
Red maple, or something like that?
One nice shade tree in that left corner would be fine.
I think the condition should be that Roger should have to approve the caliper and the size of the tree, so we don't get a little big.
Can we just establish that now? Or is it
Maybe an
6
inch bigger than the minimum.
An inch bigger than, what's the minimum?
3 and a half?
2.5,
Everybody follows it.
3 feet caliber, 12 foot high.
At planning?
3 inch,
Roger, could you clarify that?
hot day.
Mr. McLaren.
What did he say?
Well, it just has to meet code, right? Is that what you're saying, or an inch bigger than code? Bigger than code?
Whatever he would
Right.
determine is the caliper that would be required for a large shade tree.
An elm tree.
It's like 10 foot tall?
Well, ultimately 10 foot tall?
Not 10 years from now.
What is the requirement for a shade tree?
We're
at-
trying to find it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rich, while he's looking that up, can I ask you?
Yeah.
The minimum, I believe, is 3-inch caliber, 8 foot high.
Right. That right.
Pete, the 5 and 12 pitch you have on the front roof, is that because of the ordinance?
That's because-
All right, 4-inch caliper.
Given the shape of the roof, that's the highest we could make it without going higher than the ridge of the roof.
10 foot.
I'm limited by the existing ridge, I didn't want to go higher.
4-inch, 10
No,
foot,
but-
Chris. Chris, 4-inch, 10 foot, right?
It's really awkward down here where the edge of the roof hits the shutter. And if that pitch,
Pardon
Is
me?
it gonna go
are we
shallower?
considering a 412 pitch minimum now instead of?
No.
Not on
No.
the porch.
No, still 5.
And the ordinance says 1 3/4 inch caliper, 10 foot.
5 inch, not 12. I thought you were changing that before.
So you would do 3 then? That was the old code, that's 3.
Do 3.
Great.
3-inch caliper
10 foot.
as a condition of the approval is acceptable to the Grossmans. Thank you for that.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Anyone here from the public like to comment or question? Public portion is closed. Any discussion from the board? Any further questions?
Yeah, I was in the middle of one.
Go ahead, Clement.
Why don't we continue that?
If that pitch was taken down a little bit and you could get the fascia, the roof fascia of the new porch in line with the roof fascia of the existing, so you didn't have that awkward situation there.
So
Is that
suggesting-
doable?
Well, we'd have to do slightly less than a 512 pitch, but
Yeah.
it might be like a 4.9 or whatever.
I don't, whatever it would be, because you don't want to go above the peak. That was your point, right?
Right. But I guess technically it's not a variance, but.
Yeah, it would be a variance, but I think it would improve the look of the house if you want to consider it.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry, I
You
wasn't.
either.
What was it? What was it?
He's asking you to change the pitch of the roof, even though it's not a required variance.
Slightly. So it lines up with the existing roof. which would change the pitch to maybe like a 4.9 or
Some order here.
Stop talking, everybody.
Well, it'd be a variance because it'd be slightly
That
less
plan,
than
Mike,
12,
plan, Mike,
but I think that's doable.
If, it's, Clem, if you want to make that a additional variance, that's fine.
well, Clem made it a suggestion, and he seemed to agree with it, so you guys can determine that.
I don't, that's architectural.
Exactly.
That's for you guys to decide if it works, and the Grossmans aren't going to see a perceptible difference, which I doubt they will.
Peter understands what Clem was saying, and he can explain it to the Grossmans, and they can do what's best for the project. Is that okay?
As a suggestion, absolutely, yes.
But it would require a slightly less pitched roof, which
But I don't think that's required for a porch roof.
It's not.
Well, that's
it's
true,
not
that's
required for a
true,
porch
that's
roof.
true, I forgot about it. If it's one story, it doesn't have to meet the 512.
oh, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Just not a variance.
Okay.
All right. Well,
So with the suggestion will be taken under advisement.
Can I throw a suggestion out there? Throw the hip back down on the back of it. Never be seen. Just pick it up to 1 foot that it is and you just cut your ridge back on the same pitch as the rear roof. And done.
I think Peter knows what you're talking about, because I don't.
I think I do.
Can we just build,
Yes, we
just
can,
build
we
the plan
can,
as submitted?
yes.
Thank you,
With,
and with Clem's suggestion,
under
being
advisement,
discussed with the Grossmans, certainly.
Yes.
Thank you.
yes.
One shade tree at 3 inch.
Okay, any other questions or discussion amongst the board? Would you,
Sure. We need a motion for C variance relief for...
yes, we
Yes.
did, and we closed it, right?
We did?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I don't remember either. Motion for C variance relief for a front yard setback to the porch along North Belmont Avenue of 4.6 feet or 11.3 feet is the required prevailing setback, and a landscape coverage variance of 31% where 35% is required. The condition will be that the applicant will provide for one shade tree, 3-inch caliber, 10-foot in that northerly section on the property, and all other conditions in Mr. McLaren's report.
I'll make that motion.
Craig?
Tom Collins?
I vote in favor of the application. I think this is very de minimis. You have a definite hardship based upon the construction of the existing house, the sidewalk, and the actual lot lines that you're dealing with. I think you're making the best use out of what you've got. It'll look pretty, and it'll be an improvement to the neighborhood.
Clem Wozzeski?
There's an obvious hardship here due to the shape of the lot, as Tom mentioned. And the addition of this porch considerably improves the appearance of the overall structure. It balances out, it's good proportion to what's already there, and certainly will be a visual improvement to this house and therefore also to the neighborhood. I vote yes.
Rich Patterson?
I also vote yes for the same reasons.
Mike Cristaldi?
I also vote yes for the same reasons.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I also vote yes for the same reasons as previously stated by Mr. Wosleski.
Craig Palmisano?
A very difficult sized lot. I haven't seen one worse. I vote in favor of it.
Remy, I'm sorry. Mike Richmond.
Yeah, I think it's a definite hardship case, and I'm going to vote yes.
Application passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next case is, where are we? Vincent Caputo, 115 North Iroquois Avenue. Block 310.02, Lot 6, in the S25 district, to grant C variance relief for side yard setback, combined side yard setback, and possibly others. Taxes and water are current, and proof of advertising and notifying is satisfied. Mr. McLaren?
Thank you, Board Chairman, Board members. My report is in regard to the application of Vincent Caputo, 115 North Iroquois Avenue. Two types of variances we identified are a hardship variance and substantial benefit variance. Background, the applicant is seeking relief from the ordinances of the city of Margate in order to construct a new single-family dwelling on a 67.5-foot deep by 53-foot wide property on the 100 block of Iroquois Avenue between Winchester and Monmouth Avenues. The proposal is to have a detached garage and driveway combination to provide 3 off-street spaces and a single-car garage below the structure and driveway combination for an additional 2 spaces. The entryway into the house will be at the ground floor with internal steps to the first floor. Additional storage space is provided at the ground floor level, which is permitted by FEMA. Several variances are required as described below. Page 2, you'll see the zoning schedule for the site. In that zone, documents reviewed, and the variances required are as follows. 1 is a front yard setback for the building, whereas 13 feet is a prevailing setback, and 5 feet being a minimum, and 11.5 feet is proposed, requiring a variance, as per section 175, attachment 4, schedule B1. Minimum side yard setback, whereas 8 feet is a minimum side yard setback, and 5.5 feet is proposed, requiring a variance due to the width of the lot. This is on the left side of the house. Minimum combined side yard setback, whereas 19.6 feet is a minimum calculated combined side yard setback, and 18.5 feet is proposed, requiring a variance due to the width of the lot. No waivers have been requested. Comments are as follows. The prevailing front yard setback requires a variance. The side of the property with the driveway is 13 feet wide and provides adequate width for vehicles and passengers to enter and exit the vehicles. And it's set back from the property line by a couple feet, which is an added benefit. The dimension of the tire strip should be added later to the plans. The survey is older than 1 year, so a statement from the applicant must be made that the survey accurately represents the status of the premises today. I believe it does. The source of the front yard setback information has not been provided. The applicant has taken advantage of the additional freeboard height for storage and garage space below the building. This configuration is recommended to be included in the zoning ordinance revisions that you'll be later hearing tonight. Only 2 off-street parking spaces are required and 5 are being provided for. Applicant should provide testimony as to the detached garage not being attached to the main building. It looks like it's not, but I just want to be clear on that.
And the need.
The fence in the rear yard, is that going to stay or is that going to be removed?
It's gonna stay.
It's going to stay?
Stay.
Okay,
It's
I actually
one
had somebody
final-
call me up and ask me about the fence.
I spoke to the neighbor in the rear.
Okay.
On the property, she was fine.
That concludes my report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. McLaren, and members of the board. My name is Chris Balance, and I represent Mr. Caputo, who is here with us this evening with respect to the property he owns at 115 North Iroquois Avenue, identified in the tax map as Lot 6 in Block 310.02 in the S25 zoning district. What is proposed at this location on Iroquois Avenue is a brand-new house. With that application, Mr. Caputo is going to ask for a setback on the left side of 5.5 feet where 8 feet is required, which results in combined side yard setbacks of 18.5 feet where just about 19.5 feet are also required. The front yard setback request is withdrawn, so we're talking solely about the side yards. And the justification and the reasoning on the side yard, which you'll see in my narrative report, and which I think actually makes sense and something that we thought of as we were going forward. Mr. Caputo's lot being 53 feet wide in the S25 zoning district kicks him right to an 8-foot side yard setback, no different than a lot that's 60 feet wide would require an 8-foot side yard setback. Somebody who's 49.99 is only 5 feet. So with that, Mr. Caputo is going to request that he be able to take advantage of the 5.5 feet in the left side yard, not to expand the size of his house, but to pick up that 2.5 feet in the driveway. So you have a driveway that's 13 feet wide, which is something that this board, we have talked about continuously, which gives you ample room, as Roger points out, to open your car door without hitting the fence, without hitting the house. maybe to run some landscaping up the side of the driveway, either on the house side or the fence side. And have landscaping that is actually visible from the street, as opposed to having 8 feet of grass on the left side that is generally unattended to, or not, not one of the highlights of the landscaping package. We think it works in this situation because the house to the left is set back about 13 feet from the lot line, so you'll have almost 20 feet between houses at this location. And even if that house gets rebuilt with a mandatory minimum 5-foot side yard setback, you will still meet the 10-foot the 10-foot distance between houses requirement. All other aspects of zoning comply. I've said enough. Peter's plan, he can touch upon some of the analysis he did, and as to why we're asking for this particular property, and we think it works here.
Peter Weiss, I'm just going to swear you in again. Can you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thanks.
Pete, when you describe the project for the board, tell them a little bit about some of the other observations you made of the block and why you think, for continuity purposes and development pattern of the neighborhood, why this works for Mr. Caputo at this location.
Right, so looking at this street, it turns out that the house to the south and the two houses to the north all sort of have the same characteristic of having a 3-foot side yard on the north side and a 13-foot yard on the south side. So for at least these 4 houses, there's a lot of consistency on the yards. And so between the 13 on one side and the 3 on the other, currently there's 16 feet between buildings. So in doing this, we're basically continuing that pattern, making the side yard larger, so we end up with 18.5 feet between the buildings. So what that allows, of course, is a wider driveway, easier access to the garage, because now you can see the whole front of the garage, if you will, because it's 12 feet wide. The garage isn't tucked in behind the building. So that was our thought process on this.
Peter, do you think that the 5.5-foot side yard setback on the left side is still adequate to serve the purpose of a side yard setback, acting as a buffer between properties?
Yes.
Okay, and the 13-foot driveway on the right, is that ample driveway width to open your car doors, to use the driveway in a more functional manner than a 10-foot driveway or 10.5-foot driveway as we typically see?
We frequently see 9-foot, but yes.
And by sliding the house over to the left a couple feet, it's not giving us a bigger house or a bigger footprint. It's really just giving us a change in the width of the side yards.
Yes.
Do you see that, if the variance is granted, being a substantial detriment to either the zone plan, the zoning ordinance, or any of the neighbors or public?
No.
That's all that I have.
All right, before you, Mr. Patterson, when I look at a lot, I draw what can go on there. I mean, I'm always looking at lots or whatever. And when I draw what's allowed here, first of all, he's in an S25 zone where the vast majority of people have 40-foot lots. He's got 13 extra feet. 3 feet of that is wasted on he has to have the bigger setback, the 8-foot instead of 5-foot. But when I drew this out to meet code, he's got 8 foot on one side. He's got almost 12 foot on the other side, which is almost 2 feet bigger than what most driveways are. He's got a 15-foot setback in the back and 13 in the front, and he's got the same square footage here as the house that you drew for him. I just don't, we're here for hardships, we're here for unusual situations. I just don't see what's unusual about this. I mean, that's the rules, 8 feet, and, you have a good point. 13 feet, we can't squeeze 13-foot driveways on 40-foot lots. I mean, this is a lot you can. But you're also, you just meeting code, you come up with almost 12 feet.
Understood.
Which is bigger. So I just don't see why you couldn't have fit into this square here from scratch.
And just for the sole purpose of picking up the complying with the ordinance?
Well, it's the same size house.
Exactly, it's the same size house, we're just sliding it over.
But you already have an extra couple feet from the driveway.
I understood.
1 second, I'll get you, Mike.
I'm also looking, Mr. Patterson, at the
This isn't a terrible thing here.
No,
I'm
no,
just,
no,
I'm right.
thinking it through with you,
Right.
that the fact that he's bumped to an 8-foot side yard setback when he's only 3 feet off the 50-foot criteria,
Right.
that may be something you guys look at in the future, where if you're between 50 and 53, it's 6 feet.
But we haven't. That hasn't even come up.
I understand.
So,
And like I said, it's this application that I think it works, only because you got 13 feet from the lot line to the house next door. And I understand about complying with the ordinance because it's the ordinance.
well, not only that, you have a bigger lot, you should have, you're allowed, or you're capable of having a bigger setback.
I do want to point out that the rear yard setback, he's given up 2.5 feet or 3.5 feet there. So, I mean, he could go deeper, but instead he went a little bit wider. And to me, it kind of balances out. And he is kind of being punished, if that lot was 3 point and a hair smaller,
Maybe at
you
5
have to
feet.
give up 3 feet.
So I,
And Chris, just to clarify too, is this right, so you're doubling what's existing in the side yard?
yes.
You're going from 2.7, you're going more than double.
And we're a foot off.
From
And
2
could-
feet. It's easy to double 2 feet.
What's 2 foot 7 inches, is going to 5'5".
We're making it more than a
But-
mandatory minimum.
But his zone only would require 5 foot if he didn't have that extra 3 feet.
Correct.
Well, right, that's, the zone is now, it has to be 8 feet.
No,
So
we
could
have-
you round that up and make it 6 foot on that side, and then, instead of 5'5"?
If that makes a difference, it
I don't know.
certainly brings the combined side yards closer to conforming.
Well, that would be if he shrunk the house and didn't slide it back 6 inches, is what I think that's what he was, is that what you were saying?
No, you're
You were saying shrink the house 6 inches?
No, slide it.
You were
it up-
saying slide the house 6 inches.
Slide it to the right.
Over
Yeah,
to
that's what I
6
said.
inches,
Right.
So that it gets a full 6 foot on the one side, and then he still has a large
Well, he's
driveway.
got a 13-foot driveway, though. He's got a huge driveway. Not huge, for Margate, huge.
Rich, can I enter something in?
Well, wait, Mike had a question first. I said I'd call him.
Roger pulled the same thing I did. You jeopardizing the backyard. What are you doing with the side yard? You're not growing tomatoes or doing anything with it.
You could grow tomatoes anyway.
But I think you've got the rear yard that you can use that's more practical.
Well, it's a good point.
Than on the side yard, which is a waste.
Clem?
I think there's a flaw in the ordinance in that, as soon as you exceed that 50 feet, you immediately make a jump. It's the same jump for the whole 3 feet between 5 and 8. I think it should be prorated. We're talking about 10 foot.
Like the rear yards where it's a percentage of the depth?
Yeah. There's one place, it's on the ordinance, I don't have it.
Well, it's just, it's not that way, and we haven't even proposed it, but I can see where where it'd be a good thing.
Well, in reality, it is prorated by the percentage for the combined side yards. There's a minimum, then there's a 37% of the width. There's where your prorated
Right.
aspect.
That's
comes in.
right.
Just this one 3 foot to 5 foot.
Yeah, you
5
still-
foot to 8 foot.
You still have one mandatory minimum of 8.
Right, you have to have a minimum.
Minimum would be 0. 6.
Well,
No,
you break it up into 3 point, you break it up into thirds, 53.33 is a foot and a half.
You get 3.6 inches.
Tom,
Well, the way the ordinance reads today, it's
It is what it
8
is.
feet.
It's 8, and I understand that.
So what did,
When you did that,
your
variances
clients
would
talk
go away.
about making the left side setback 6 foot?
If that's something the board thinks will make a difference, of course, he'll.
Well, that still leaves him 12 and a half feet on the driveway. I've got a 10-foot driveway with enormous landscaping down the side. Is it hard to get out of the door? Yeah, I can get out of one side or the other, but I mean, he's got an extra 2 feet over what 2.5 feet. He doesn't have Finkenauer living next to
It just
him, but,
brings the only thought, it brings the garage closer to the house, kind of makes that a little bit tighter, but the 6 inches, no, of course not.
Well, how close is it bringing, I mean, what's the space now as proposed between the house and the garage? What's the space between the house? Chris is saying that if you move it over half a foot, it's gonna make that.
Well, right now,
What is it now?
The edge of the house lines up with the edge of the garage, exactly.
Well, 6 inches isn't even going to cut into the door in the garage.
I think the wider driveway is better way to go.
What's that gonna do on the other side for 6 inches?
13 feet, you think should be the minimum? You
I'm not
can't
saying-
build houses
I'm
on
not saying it's a
13
minimum,
feet.
I'm just saying for this application,
And 12 and a half feet would be bad.
if he has 13, I'll also give him 13.
He doesn't have 13.
He's
'cause
asking for 13.
Right, because he's short with his, that's what the variance is about, he's short.
What's the difference between 5, 6?
Ask him.
and that side? I don't-
Basically nothing, Mike.
6 inches, I
Yeah,
understand.
it's basically nothing.
It's useless ground there to start with.
Well, Mike, wait a minute. Useless ground, so is 5 foot's useless. That's the way it has to be. You can't, that's a terrible argument. Worst argument I've ever heard.
Wow.
Really, the 5 foots are useless grounds, but that's just the way it is. We live on an island with tiny, look, when they're talking about those parkway lots, oh, they're huge. They'd be postage stamps in any other town.
Look, Rich, I agree with, if this was a situation where the house is getting wider as a result of this request, I understand that.
Well, it is, because your minimum is, your combined is, you're exceeding the combined,
The
so the
foot-
house is
the foot
wider.
off, so
What
that-
I like, what I see as the offset is what Roger brought up, I think is a good point. You're squeezing the house narrower from the street, giving you a bigger backyard, creating more air, and the sacrifices in the side yard. To me, that makes, that's the argument I look at to say, well, this is doable. You're not pushing every area, you're giving more land on one side and taking it from the other side, and that's a real good point.
Thank you.
Roger's a really good planner.
I think also we should respect Roger's opinion. If he says 13 feet would be preferable, he's the expert, so I'd have to
Come
agree.
on.
I don't have any, I don't have anything to add
We're,
to that.
10 foot's the driveway's here, Mike. It's an extra 3 feet. None of this matters. We're giving it to you. It doesn't matter, but,
Can we vote?
yeah.
If I get one less phone call about a driveway being too wide, that's fine with me.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. What happened to the front variance, the front yard variance? Did you
Front
get,
yard variance, I withdrew it, Mr. Caputo was not,
did you move the
says
house?
I shouldn't have done that, but that's what brings.
You moved the house back?
That's what gives you the larger, yes.
Okay.
That's what you wanted? Okay. You were not for the front yard setback? Okay.
But it was withdrawn, Craig.
I am done.
Yeah, no, it was.
Opening line.
Yes. It's gone at the beginning, yes. Are you done, Chris?
I am done, thank you.
Anyone here from the public? Comment, questions? Public portion's closed.
Make a motion?
Any other further discussion from the board or questions? Would you read the motion? What motion were you making a motion for?
Showing you I'm awake, but I'm ready to go to sleep.
Need a motion to grant C variance relief for minimum side yard setback on the left side of 5.5 feet where 8 feet is required, and for the combined yard setback of 18.5 feet where 19.6 feet is required. The conditions will just be anything contained in Mr. McLaren's report unless otherwise already addressed.
Thank you, Leo. I make a motion?
Tom Collins?
I vote in favor of the application. I really think that it really is, it's not a tremendous hardship, but there is a hardship with having a little bit bigger lot. But the overall project that you're doing, the telephone poles, I don't know what you decided to do with those, but just the whole concept in the neighborhood, and I think that what you're going to do is start a trend in the neighborhood. It's probably well needed. That's one of the older sections, and I think what you're going to propose and do is going to be very nice, and it's going to be a very big benefit to the city, to the neighborhood. I've talked to some of your neighbors when I was out looking at the property, and they were in favor of it. So I think this is a good thing, and I wish you a lot of luck, and I vote yes.
Glenn Wozzeski?
I'm also going to vote in favor. I think that considering the approach that I mentioned, even though it's not part of the ordinance, but I think it's equitable, would make this a project that did not even need these variances. And I think it's identifying some areas that we really have to address with the revisions that we're doing to the land use ordinance at this time.
Rich Patterson?
I agree with every word that Tom Collins said, so I vote yes.
Mike Cristaldi?
Man love.
Everything he's doing is what we're sort of pushing people to do, is to raise the house, get parking underneath, get a wider driveway so we don't end up with a fence down the middle of it. I can only see this being a benefit to the neighborhood, let alone anything else. I definitely vote yes.
Jim Galantino?
It's nice to see a young couple that's owned that house since 2006. You know, prove it, not a builder, just building another spec house. The 3-story, this is 2-story, which would be great. It's not oversized. I vote yes.
Margaret Gubernalty?
I also vote in favor of the project. I think it's a real nice improvement to the neighborhood. We're meeting the flood elevation. I like the 13-foot driveway. I think there's 5 off-street spots, which is great. I don't see any detriment to the public or our plan. Enjoy, yes.
Mike Richmond?
Yeah, I agree with what Mike Cristaldi said. I think there's so many more benefits to extra parking spots, wider driveway, parking underneath. You know, hopefully this will be a good model for moving forward for the rest of the town. So I'm gonna vote yes.
Application passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris? Are we taking a break?
Excuse me? Before we start talking about the ordinance, I would like to,
No, you're written them.
I was?
Yeah, I said I couldn't get them. On the paper.
education we need. There were 17 videos in there. We have to watch 17 videos, or what was I missing?
I don't know. There was another email clarification, and I guess I have to watch it too, so I'm not too excited.
Well, no, but was I on the right spot where there was 17?
There's a link, but I sent another email with another link that takes you to a site, and there's a little video.
There's one video for 45 minutes on that one.
Right.
Is that the
Just
only
watch
one?
that.
I don't want to watch 17 videos.
Ron just said.
Well, I got some videos.
Ron said it between 5 and 12 minutes each. That's it?
No, the first one was 17 minutes, and I taught 17 times 17 is a lot. The very first one was 17 minutes. I don't know. One of the, I just clicked on one to see how long it was. It was 17 minutes, and there was 17 of them.
But the next,
I happened to pick the longest one.
so I have to do a sign-in sheet for the next meeting saying, you know,
Well, could you clarify what we need to watch, just the 145-minute one?
I guess it is. I'll find out.
It's 45 minutes?
I don't know. I got it from
I
Public
have a
Works. They
TV
asked me
out
to
by the
present
pool. We
it
can put
forward
it
to the
on.
planning board. Yeah, yeah. we can do
I
it.
got a screen at the pool.
Rich? I didn't see a 45-minute one.
By the end of 17 videos, we'd all be drunk at the bottom of the pool.
Okay, would you find out for sure what we're supposed to watch, so we,
Roger,
I don't wanna-
where's your 45-minute one? I watched mine.
I don't know, I did not open
on
it.
the
I
second
just- I
email,
just
there was
forwarded it
one
on.
video that was 45 minutes long.
The Rutgers, is that the Rutgers?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't have your
I just looked at the email and found one
I
video.
watched the videos on the first email you sent.
On the first one?
Right. And then, so the second email said for clarification. you
The second one was if you didn't have Adobe Flash
Go to
Player.
Rutgers, go to Rutgers website.
No, but the second one led, when you clicked on it, it led to one video instead of leading to 17 videos.
Yeah, but it,
Rich, I took the one with the test. There's a test at the end during the video. We have to answer
I just want somebody to come up with clarification for what we're supposed to watch.
I'll do that.
Okay. We do?
It's the 17th.
during the, yeah, you have to pay attention and answer questions while you're watching the video.
Most of the events are really, it's like, we're actually a couple of.
It was sent to everyone.
All kinds of stuff. All those 17 videos was A to Z for topics that just didn't seem to apply to us.
Margate's a Tier A storm community, so they have to do public outreach, and they have to train planning board members. So if an application comes in here for like a Walmart, or, we can handle it.
We're definitely watching this at the
They've
pool.
been calling me about selling to
Okay, Roger's going to find out exactly, and he'll let you know, Clem, but he'll find out exactly which ones we have to watch. So I wouldn't waste time watching any until we hear from it, so. And it would be fun to watch it together. We could discuss it and,
You throw each other the pool.
yeah. Okay, so you want to take over for what we're doing with these? And would you start it out with an explanation of what happened to the years of work that went into this with Weiser and the whole new master plan, and that, is that out the window? Because I was unclear of it, and I'm sure the board is too.
No. What happened was, the city got, as you were aware, the city got multiple grants. One was a Phase 1, which was the bulkhead height, back bay study, that, whatever. We changed the ordinances in regard to that. We have another grant, it was $50,000 to do the zoning ordinance change and the master plan. So the master plan was done last year. We all voted on it, agreed to most of it. Then the $50,000 grant was to change this line by line, go through it line by line, and make changes to it. Well, Mr. Weiser from Remington and Vernick wanted to throw this book out and just make it this thick and use Pleasantville's as a model, and I said, whatever's easiest. I said, because that $50,000 is gonna go by like this. And as it turns out, that wasn't the easier way to go, so we just scrapped that idea and went through this line by line, kept it simple, and
Did we pay $50,000 for the other one?
yes. And the result is what we have before us tonight. All
So
the
what this
add-ons-
is that book modified?
Correct. Which was the intent of the grant anyway.
Wiser in charge of it.
Yes.
Not anymore.
Tom?
Look, Stuart wanted to do a bang-up job, and I thought he did a good job.
Who are we dealing with now? Remington, the verdict, or Wiser?
Remington and Vernick and myself. So Stuart did do a lot of work, and then Joe Johnson from Remington and Vernick, went through 2 years of stuff with me, and he said, all right, let's keep this simple. There's stuff in here that we just didn't need. We were getting rid of a lot of the, what I call nuisance variances, or ordinances, like 10 feet from a side yard, and we clarified.
You mean the
detached-
adjacent structure?
Adjacent structure. We just got rid of that. That didn't make sense. That was probably something put in there to make somebody feel good 20 years ago. Doesn't work. So everything in blue is an add-in. Everything in red and a strike is something we're getting rid of. I will send to everyone, I'll print out copies of the zoning charts. I forgot to bring those tonight. But instead of having multiple zoning charts, we're going to have basically just two. Has everything in there. It's a full-size sheet. The idea is, another idea is we have a height regulating map, and there's certain things on that map that are not in here unless you have that map. You're not gonna know it's an ordinance. So our idea is to get rid of that height regulating map and put everything.
Incorporated into the
So
zoning
put
map?
everything in here, and in the zoning map as needed. There's a new zoning map, as discussed during the master plan, all the waterfront properties. If, you know, if you're in an S60 zone on your waterfront, whether you have special land use requirements, and we just made that its own zone, like an S60W. All the government-owned, like the beach, the whole entire beach was zoned as a GO zone, which kind of doesn't make sense. That lose that it's government-owned. Well, all those parcels are not government-owned. So we just designated it as a beach zone. This building here was a GO zone. Now it's an institutional zone.
All the little pieces between the bulkhead and the houses, that some 30 feet wide, they were GO zones. They're now zoned to whatever the adjacent zone is. And what that does is, we did a house on Rumson and the beach, and the city deeded some land to them, but there was a big deal because it was a GO zone, so that eliminates those types of problems.
Right.
That even though the government owns it, it's zoned to what it should be in that area, in case there's a transfer from the government to the people.
Correct. And that provision's in the ordinance too. If a parcel is subdivided, and that is, it transfers to the zone that it's adjacent to.
Is the grass governor zone in here?
Yes.
Is the, this is from Scott Abbott. He said there's a 38-foot driveway on a street. He wanted to know if we could limit the driveway to, even for, you know, so wide for a single-car garage, so wide for a double-car garage. Apparently, there's no regulation now
On
There's-
driveway cuts.
on the
Curb
driveway
cuts.
cut.
We can add that in here,
And what I'd like is, if, it's not that big a deal to go through this. Everybody over this next month, go through here, and if you have any changes or little things that, we talked about a lot of things, and it's been going on so long, there might have been something that we thought was important that's not in here, but now's the time that we can look at this and add these things, or, you know, see what the changes are, or if there's things that you remember, not something new out of the sky, but things that we did talk about. I asked Roger about if trees are taken out, that they have to be replaced, but he said we can't put that in this ordinance. That's some other,
that's not really a land use ordinance, that's more of a.
but the grass strip is a land use ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't understand that, but it is, so we can't put that in.
Well, if somebody owns a house for 20 years and a tree is in disrepair and needs to be removed, that's not a land use, that's a site safety issue, and it could be under streets and sidewalks.
But what we had talked about with it, what we, maybe we didn't, but with the green team talking about, or no, it was Mike. In Glenside, there's places where if you remove a tree, you have to replace the tree.
Right.
Right, and but that would not be
That's
under
its
our,
own section somewhere.
but that's not part of this.
No.
You need a permit to take a tree down 25 feet from the street. You can't cut a tree.
Well, that's something that needs to be addressed, but apparently it's not this. Does it have anything to do with the planning board, or would it have to do, where would that come in?
Usually environmental commission. If a town has an environmental commission and a green team, a shade tree committee, usually falls under that.
But they're not doing anything. Okay, anyway, things like this driveway width, I didn't know what Scott was talking about, and he showed me. It's crazy. The guy has this giant strip which takes away street parking. There's no need for it. So I think it's on Rumson Avenue, isn't it? It's on Rumson Avenue, but
What are we talking about?
the curb cut.
Right.
The guy's for his driveway, he's got a 38-foot curb cut.
Really?
Yeah,
Next door to Walmart?
yeah.
Brand new house?
I don't, we're not changing that. We're saying we're gonna put a limitation on it, that there's a maximum the curb cuts can be, or
We can actually put that in two different ordinances. We could put that in the land use ordinance, and we could put it in the streets and sidewalks. So we can,
Yeah, nothing's retroactive, just going forward, that gets rid of parking and
I'm
everything.
just gonna throw my house out there because I've got the double driveway.
well, you need the double driveway.
But that's not 38 feet.
No,
No, if you have a double driveway, it's a wider curb cut.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, it's
So
single,
we're gonna come up with some
For a single and for a double, for a double wide and a single.
Most towns, it's a 10 and a 20, and if you have two separate ones, it's a 9 and a 9.
Yeah, I mean, perfect, I mean, that would work. But 38 feet is abusive, and it also gets rid of the grass and the landscaping and the parking, so that's something that Scott's been after for a while. I thought it was included in here, it wasn't.
So are we gonna like go through this and then next month we're gonna talk about it?
We're gonna vote on it next month.
We're gonna vote on it.
Next month it gets
Right.
voted on.
Okay,
Yes, no, if you have something, then bring it to Roger's attention.
right.
Before the meeting,
yes.
we're voting on it at the next meeting. So if
The-
you have anything you want, bring it to Roger's attention.
And then
And
would Roger email everybody?
he can email everybody, he can throw out things that Tom sends in or
Right.
whatever.
Discussion before we vote.
We can have a discussion about it before we vote, but it'll be voted on at the next meeting.
Okay.
This is gonna be the new book now?
Yes.
You know what else I like
I
that,
need you to read this one.
I got that email, are you listening, Roger?
Yes.
About the thing with the curb, I didn't really fully get it in the driveways, but I think it's important, being builders,
This thing?
probably, yeah. Because, you know, things, and I know you're exactly right what you said about all the, but. and-
Oh, no, you're
and
talking
you
about
never-
the email sent to all the contractors about using a
Right.
10-inch form for an 18-inch curb.
Right,
Right.
right, yeah, stuff like that. And the thing, you know, when you first came to town, for the 20 or 30 years before that, when we were doing driveways and sidewalks, nobody ever checked what you were talking about.
Right.
2%.
So it's good to give a heads up to the concrete guys, like you did, and as many contractors that you can, if there's any other things that you're gonna require, just so.
I try to do
Or,
that,
I don't know if this thing, if anything in here is, well, obviously, is, you know, if there's any changes that are gonna pertain to architects and builders and contractors.
Well, again, all this stuff, I'm using the term stuff, was discussed in open forums for the past 3 years with realtors, architects,
Right.
ad nauseum. I mean, I try to mention it as much as I can at these meetings and at workshop meetings with the governing body. It's been out there. But,
Oh, I know, yeah, but I'm
and-
just,
and
if
as soon as
there's
it-
anything else that changes, we should, I liked how you made that notification to the contractor, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't think that's such a bad thing.
So you and I talked the other day about, there were some driveways where the ribbons did not meet tire width. I mean, is that what this does?
What happened is Jimmy and I got a call from this one woman that designed for John Ovalenis. Oh, did I use his name? And on the plans that I approved, I wrote on there with a big red circle, I said, please demonstrate how this driveway is going to work, because it was too close. The car's going to be straddled on the sides. Lo and behold, the driveway gets built according to the plan, and I had to pass it because it complied with zoning. There's no design standard on a tire strip. So the woman we had to deal with, you know, it's her issue between the builder and the architect, it's not the city. So I was talking to Jimmy, and I did some research. We need a design standard for tire strips.
So that's my question. So will this be included in?
We can
Here?
add that in there, yes.
Okay. So the curbs, the curb cut and this, definitely we would like to add to it.
Did I see that?
That's really simple, just an 80/40 center.
Right.
No, I understand that, but let's get these things in there.
Yeah,
That-
7 foot. Roger,
And if there's other things
a
that,
couple of years ago, when all this started, we were all asked to make notes of changes in the soil and give them to whoever was at the time. Did they make it down?
Tom.
that was the master plan that's been approved.
But did those notes survive? Were they ever
Yeah, they
reviewed by
survived,
the
and
people who finally are
again,
doing the ordinance?
and keep in mind, you know, Stuart Weiser received information probably from 40 different people, and it's hard to get everything that's in there and make it practical to put in here. I think a lot of things a lot of your input was taken and put in here, and my input, the board's input, and other members. But right now, today, we got to get something on the books so we can start enforcing it, and we have a timeline because of the master plan was just done last year. We have to get it done now.
So this will definitely be voted on at the next meeting, and if there's a time limit, we'll have a special meeting to vote on it if there's any, if there is a time problem, but it's too early to vote on it now, we just got it.
It was just
I would
introduced.
hope everybody would look at this to
Rich,
see that, huh?
It was just introduced at the last commission meeting. By law, we have 30 days.
35 days.
35
There's
days.
from referral.
What was-
report back,
What was introduced?
but there's this.
The
this
ordinance,
But aren't we changing this and adding the driveways and,
yes, but it was introduced. You can make
or we
amendments.
can modify it after it's introduced? Okay.
And it still needs to be legally advertised. That hasn't been done yet.
Right,
The-
so,
But I'm saying, is the next meeting okay? That
Yes.
doesn't lose us any grants or anything?
The sooner would be better.
If you want to have a special meeting in a couple of weeks, we could do that.
This would be very quick, I mean, you know, I don't mean very, maybe an
When's the
hour
second week?
tops of discussion,
Leah, when do we have
The
to
if we have to.
fifth.
have our changes in?
And then the 19th.
well, when was it introduced? In 35 days after referral, so I assume it was technically referred to us the day it was introduced, which was what, last Thursday?
The 21st.
21st, so 35 days from the 21st.
It's 26.
26, right, July 26. And what day is their meeting?
26th.
Meeting in August.
We're not having a meeting at all.
No, their first meeting, commissioners meeting in August.
Right, so they're not gonna, right, so they can't do it. In other words,
Do we need a special
No.
meeting?
I don't,
We don't need a
We
special
do.
meeting for time-wise for the 35 days.
correct.
The question comes up, do we need a special meeting in order for the governing body to approve it at the second meeting in July?
That's my question. For whoever has to approve it, do we need to have,
Yeah.
are we up against the time frame? And we could lose a
Scott
grant,
Adams said,
correct?
no, we're not going to lose a grant. no.
If you wanna get the thing adopted at their second meeting in July, then we're gonna have to somehow get together and vote on it before that meeting, and get it back to them.
But we're not even gonna have a meeting in August, so nobody's gonna be able to slip anything in under us.
I do want to point out the thing that you really want to pay attention to is the overlay zone that we discussed for the master plan to add like a hotel, boutique hotel along the east side of Atlantic Avenue in the CBD zone and part of the MF zone.
Does that go from the Island House to Coolidge Avenue?
It stops short of Coolidge Avenue. I think it's a block short of that.
Block short of Coolidge Avenue, and does it start at the Island House?
It starts at
Yeah,
Benson Avenue or Decatur Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
that's
In that regard, I just, initially, we saw some plans, and this was years ago, and it was condos. Is this specifically designed to be a hotel, even with condo ownership? But this is designed to be, I mean, not what he's doing, but what we're proposing is it would be would be a hotel.
Correct.
Or motel, hotel.
Predominantly hotel with restaurants, certain beach access requirements, maximum length of stay in a room, and this is the size of the rooms. We don't want, and I think the board and all the constituents, we didn't want a 30-story condo again.
Well, you can't do that.
We want some transient rooms. That was the whole idea.
Well, Tom, you and I had talked about it when it was considered being condos, and we said, well, you can do it bigger if you include some hotel rooms. So this is actually better. This is a hotel.
Good for the city.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
No
yeah.
hotel rooms at all.
But I mean,
City
it's
of
better than
Margate.
what we discussed before. This is all.
It
hotel.
provides extra height where height already exists, so we're not,
So there's two things here. What's the other thing? What's this? Oh, this is the,
This is it,
Synopsis.
ordinance form.
oh, okay.
So that's what they introduced, ordinance number 7.
But what we need to review is this.
Yes.
And if,
Correct.
okay.
And how long did you decide we're gonna have to do
We're gonna
this?
do it in the next meeting. We're not losing anything. So I would try to get them in 2 weeks. To Roger.
What I'm not positive of, and I don't have to know now, but I could talk to Scott about it. An ordinance has been introduced on first reading. If we now make changes to it and send it back,
10%.
They're
10.
insubstantial.
Okay, so if we make any substantial
Right.
changes, it has to start over, basically. Okay.
I don't see that happening.
Okay, good.
The one thing I did want to discuss tonight, and I think I did mention it before, is decks and patios on bayfront properties. We allow them to go to BFE plus 1 foot 8 inches. And that's when the freeboard was 2 feet. And the idea was to have a 4-inch step down from your step. And now since we're higher, now it's like a 3-foot drop again. Do we want to have it read, my idea is to have it read where it's 3 foot 8 inches above the base flood, or it has to be at least 4 inches below first floor. If you read it that way, it can be adjusted.
That makes sense.
It makes sense
that you
because
got all
allow
these
arguments.
giant decks.
I think that, I
Everything
think
else in
it's,
town is gonna be that way, why
I
not?
like the 4-inch below. I mean, you know, everything's going higher, so are the decks. What are you gonna do?
Well, here's a scenario that why I think the 4 inches works. Say somebody with a lot of money just wants to build a 1-story house or a 2-story house. They can go higher, but the deck couldn't. If we read 4 inches below, he can raise that to maintain a 4 inches. But he wouldn't exceed the height.
So you have a sliding scales, that's what I was saying.
Well, it's four,
He was
here's your
saying
floor.
slide with a floor, 4 inches below the floor.
Wherever
is
that
what
floor
he was
is,
saying.
that 4 inches complies with the first floor.
I just built my house. This is just, I didn't build it. The house is built, it's got a brand new deck on it, everything's nice, I'm down to 8 feet.
Bayfront?
Bayfront, now the guy next door just built a brand new house, Mike just got finished doing it, and the deck's up here.
That bastard builder.
And I'm really looking at that. You're gonna see a lot of opposition.
Yeah,
on
but
this.
know.
I just actually had that situation in Hall.
I
And
didn't
people
know
were
that.
towering over their neighbors, but the bulkhead had to be at that height. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
the
that's-
bulkhead,
that's-
the bulkhead,
I'm
they
saying
didn't
we're
wanna do it, they tried to fight it. Because they tried to get away with not having the bulkhead have to be at 9.75, which it is in Longport. 9.75.
That's high.
And
we're
yeah,
in.
but, you know, now the deck, now they tower over their neighbors, but that's the way of the world.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, you're right. It's
Well, we
the same
did
with whole
reduce the
town.
impact by making it, has to comply with the building setbacks. Before, it used to go the whole side to
Yeah.
side. That was ridiculous.
I kinda like the 1'3" and then they can put a landing and a step down. Houses are gonna be different heights on the first floor elevation, I think. What's the highest we can go on the first floor elevation?
Depends on the zone.
You can go high, if you have a 1-story house, you could go up to 40 feet or 30 feet. I mean, it's,
That comes just down 4 inches to me. I think that you came 1 foot,
I would say you can probably get away with 10 inches. It'd be like 1 step, or 8 inches.
That's hazardous.
Right now, we
you
say
need a
that
platform.
80,
You
if
have to have a
we want that
platform,
4 inch.
a platform and steps.
steps.
Yeah, it's good, we're gonna get a lot of opposition, no matter which way we go.
I know.
It's a tough-
But the intent of the original ordinance was to provide a 4-inch
I
step.
said that's, to me, that makes the most sense, the
Right.
4 inch.
Um,
Here's some static.
I want to bring up, while we're here tonight, because we can discuss it, we started talking about it last month, about garages. And I don't know if that's in here. Is it in here?
It's in the zoning chart, but the zoning chart's not here.
No, I mean in here?
It's on the zoning, yes, but it's in the zoning chart, which is not included in this. You're talking about,
I'm talking about if you want to put the garage under the house, that you can still go
Yes.
30 feet from the first floor.
Right.
That's in here?
yes.
Okay. And if you do that, are you allowed to have, or if you do that, you don't have an outside garage, correct?
That's something we need to discuss.
That was the case we had tonight, he had both. But we wanted to put the garage underneath the house in order to free up green space. So it's like, we'll let you go higher, but if we're giving in and saying you can go higher to put the garage underneath, but then you shouldn't also get a garage. If you want your 2 8-foot sheds or whatever,
All he did tonight was have to close in that bottom and then build a garage.
What are you talking about?
That's not the situation in all zones.
No, but I
Right.
meant that, in that case tonight,
not put a garage door in the front.
Yeah.
But, you know, most people aren't gonna
No, I'm
put
saying,
more parking
look,
than they need.
he didn't, this guy didn't go over the 30 feet. We're talking about, you can go over the 30 feet if you put a garage underneath.
Right.
If you do that, you don't get another garage, because the object with no greenery is to free up 250 landscape
I
area.
think that what we talked about, Roger, was that right now, if you have a freestanding garage, is that considered lot coverage?
No.
It's lot coverage, yes.
No.
It's lot coverage.
It is lot coverage,
Detached garage is a lot coverage,
but it's not building
Wait a
coverage.
not building coverage.
I think we said, if you want to do the garage, if you want to go underneath and have a separate garage, then as like a penalty, we would call it building coverage. Isn't that what we said last meeting? One of the ideas, anyway? I don't know if you can just do that.
There's two ways of thought. If you want people to put the garages underneath, you start counting detached garages as building coverage, then everyone's gonna go underneath. But to me, that's a hardship that you're causing them.
I think that's draconian. But I think if you give people the option, but not have both.
Right.
Not have both.
Yeah.
We're letting you go high as we are now, we're letting them go even higher, but then our purpose is freeing up space.
Right.
Right.
Legally, can we write an ordinance, I don't know, you or Leo, Roger, where if we grant them a variance to increase the height by parking underneath, then that reverts to a higher landscape coverage.
But Tom, they're saying that no variance, they're saying that.
Right.
The way the ordinance
There
reads,
would be a variance, but we just
No, I'm
wouldn't
saying
allow
that
garages.
if you're required 30% landscaping, but you go up in height, but you're parking underneath, then that extra space goes into, and your landscape will go, say, from 30 to 40% because you're using that green space. You know what I'm saying? So you're adding
the
in-
incentive is if they wanna put a
Complicated.
patio
You
in, they don't need a variance for the
You
patio.
get rid of the garage. You have a garage here, you don't have a garage here. Now, in this case that we had tonight,
It's just an oddball.
but he wasn't asking for a variance for that. He didn't need it. So I'm saying for
Going
us to,
forward.
but even this guy would be okay going forward. Going forward, if someone wants the extra height to put the garage underneath, they don't get two garages. They can have as many
You
as
can't
they
have a
want under the
detached
house.
garage and a house underneath.
You can't have a
The garage.
detached garage and a house underneath. You still can get storage sheds, but look, when you put your garage underneath, you've got all that other room that's usable for storage.
You don't need a shed either.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. I mean, it's, you might have, whatever, your lawnmower, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think they shouldn't get two garages if we're gonna give them that extra height.
Right, I agree.
Shed, yes, you can have a shed.
I'm not talking about a shed, the garage.
A she shed?
When it's a garage.
We can put that in as a condition in the ordinance.
That's
Right.
That's why I'm bringing it up now, because
Right.
that's part of it too.
Better get a firm definition between shed and garage.
The shed's 8 by 10?
8 by 10.
8 by 10.
8 by 10.
9 feet high.
One of our
Not
problems
an
we
inch
don't
more.
have is how big is a shower?
32 square feet.
No, we have, that's in there.
With the 30, I didn't know that.
There's a square footage of shower, I saw that.
That's
Maybe that
clarified
was
in
new,
here
but
too.
I just.
It's clarified in this,
Yeah.
in the ordinance. Because it says, in the ordinance as it reads today, it says it can't extend more than 4 feet out and 8 feet across.
Can I ask a question on the shower? It says you have to have a drain. My shower goes right into the grass in the middle of the
It
yard.
says it has to have drainage,
So draining it through the grass is, I mean, I don't have any
Okay.
problem.
like a
Now
French
you're
drain.
polluting the grass, the environment. Going
I-
right into the
What
ground.
kind of soap are you using?
Yeah. God, our water's.
No,
gonna
I
be
just
tainted.
wondered what that meant. So you don't want it running off anywhere.
Right.
Right.
You don't want concrete under
Dig a
there.
hole,
Yeah,
you build
right.
a straight. It's no.
I get a hole for my apple.
I'll do it for you. So what's this thing again?
That's a list of the changes
Oh, it is.
in ordinance form. Yeah,
But
so,
this is what you
This
want
is
to
the
review,
easiest
if you
to
want to
read.
add anything or change
Right.
anything, let Roger know.
But
And
so what is this? Is this a
this will be
supplement to
changed
this?
based on,
no.
this is the ordinance, this isn't the ordinance. This is
Okay.
the book.
Okay.
This is the ordinance that makes this legal.
Okay.
So this will be modified if we modify this. So
Okay.
don't look at this, just look at this.
Okay. Got it.
And it would be best, unless they're really good changes, not to change
Yeah.
this.
Well, things like we just talked about tonight that aren't in there.
It's
and
more of a
may have been-
clarification.
That's what I'm saying. Don't pull things out of left field that, oh, here's something else. We've been through all that. If there's something like the curb cut width, we've been talking about it, it's not in there. We had talked about this. We all agreed. We want that in there. So those are the kind of things.
Like simple things like our ordinance doesn't address generators, so I had generators put in here. There's fire
is
pits,
in here.
right.
We need a grading plan.
Would the fire pit pass at Nassau Island? The new
Raj.
requirements?
We need a grading plan too.
Is that in there?
I don't know if we can put that in there.
That's not gonna be part of this right now.
Grading, did you say grading?
Roger, I think generators are pretty well spoken for themselves. 10 feet from the property line, 18 feet from, and 18 inches from any building.
That's not in here.
That's not in there, but it's on the,
Oh, the generator itself.
on the generator itself. 10 feet from the property line, 18 inches from any building, and the exhaust end of it's got to
10
be
feet
5
from the
feet
property
away
line?
from any opening.
Generators have to be 10 feet from the property line?
No, 5.
5.
Yeah. And anything within 5 feet of circumference, like windows, doors.
Right.
18 inches and anything combustible, walls.
It's only on the exhaust end.
Well, it's in this instructions. It wants nothing in the way. It just gives you.
We've been wrestling with that thing down there.
All right, so-
Something else long-term I want to talk about is these front yard setbacks. I think we should go to a hard number. This,
agree.
this prevailing setback is nonsense. I mean, it used to be 5 feet across the board. I think that's too small.
I agree. People are getting really,
It changes
by the-
every day.
people are getting hurt.
Well, yeah, as soon as you take the average, then it moves and it keeps changing.
What?
But just
Somebody
the-
wants to do an additional under the porch, it costs them $800 to get a front yard setback survey. It shows,
Yeah, for all the houses.
right.
And pretty much I've seen from just about everybody on the board, people want to sit out on their porches and talk to their neighbors, and that's kind of what we've been gearing towards. And, they're squeezing in with these, the Hartman case. If they followed the rules, they would have had a 3-foot porch. It just didn't make any sense. It was useless. So having a porch that extends out a little bit and you can sit over there and talk, I sit on my porch every night and talk to the people going by. It makes more of a neighborhood community. And, Peter designed stuff and they got to come in here and ask. So I think you're right, 5 feet small, but I think if you come up with a number that we can agree on.
Not necessarily.
Some streets, the houses have a lot of grass up and down the whole street, Lancaster Avenue, and that's on your north side. Some of them are 15 feet all the way up and down.
Right, I just looked at a house, at a lot, and I was looking at the setbacks. Everybody had a porch, and everyone was set into the house, and I don't want that. So if I wanted to add a porch on front, I was screwed, because every one of the houses within 200 feet was set in. So I was punished because of that.
Recessed into the house, they don't count as a front porch.
So then you have 0 set, then it's the same setback as the house, and you don't get a
Front would have
porch.
to be in front. If it's built into the house, it's not.
So then you have the same setback for the porch as you do for the house, so you're screwed.
We're gonna have to do building and then porch.
But it can't be
Because they'll be
one
bringing these
number for
buildings
every
out.
zone.
Yeah, I don't want the building to come out.
And say, I don't need the porch, I just want the building.
You want to speak? Speak.
Well, like the first case tonight, Grossman, the front setback came out to be like 11.5 feet or something required, because all the lots going up Belmont were 75 foot deep. And that's what became the average,
Right.
And this guy's like crammed in this little
Yeah.
lot. So why don't you do like the rear yard, just say percentage of the lot depth or something like that.
That was one of my thoughts, too.
Well, could you come up with some ideas, what you want to do to replace it, because, we had neighbors hating each other because of that Hiltner case, and it was nuts. Because all their porches were set back, but it wasn't going to hurt the neighborhood. Putting a house on the sidewalk's going to do something, but the house is more of a,
So, Roger, would you make it a percentage
are you talking about building or decks?
and/or,
Both.
and/or prevailing? In other words, like some of the streets down here that have
like a row home types, the little cottages, every one of them's ready to site.
It's not gonna be,
If one burned down in the fire, you couldn't say, okay, we're gonna move it back to the center.
Well, there's always variances.
well, 5 foot's the minimum, so if they're up to the sidewalk, they gotta build it back anyway.
Or ask for a variance.
I think the 5-foot minimum is a good number, but I think it should be, I talked to Chris Balanson about it months ago. Same as a rear yard, percentage for the porch, like 10% for the porch, 15% for the house.
Of width or depth? or-
Depth.
Depth.
Something like that, or just a hard number.
Percentage of it.
That makes
You can
sense.
Look at your survey and get your
The
number
less
right.
depth, the little closer you could be so you could fit the house on it. That makes sense.
It would be better than a hard number, because some areas you could have 25 feet, like Batesford Drive, and other areas you can't get 5.
The only issue is when you have these screwy lots that,
Well, wait, I was just looking at a 107-foot lot.
All the lots in the street are pretty much the same. Or they're zoned.
You know what you could do? You could have, just like the minimums, you could have a maximum. It's a percentage with a maximum. So then when you have a 125-foot lot, you're not screwed over.
and the other thought is just do a survey of the whole town and Mansfield Avenue, where they're set back further, have a special setback zone for that block. That's a lot more work.
How much would the survey cost?
It would never.
No, I mean-
It's never gonna happen.
I would be driving out and around. I mean, Ocean City, they had setbacks for every street. I mean, there's like 20 pages of setbacks for each street. Ridiculous. Yeah, fixed number. But I'd say
Some options, we'll look at.
all these main streets, like Winchester, Monmouth, that should be 5 feet. Because we're forcing them to that side anyway because of the driveways. And there's no prevailing because the house next door, that's the high and the low, it gets thrown out anyway.
All right, Roger's gonna let us know what videos we have to watch.
Yeah.
Look at these for changes. And Roger's gonna come up with some ideas, and if you could get them out to us too for the setbacks. If we can get all that in, if he has everything in 2 weeks and he can get it back to us in a week, we can see it and then vote on it next meeting and have it done.
And we're gonna get charts back in the book.
There is a new chart that came out, and he's gonna, is it,
I'll email that to you.
Okay.
well.
I'll make
you-
copies
You
if-
already emailed it, or did you just email it?
Should have
to
been
me?
in there,
But
but-
we need hard copies, so,
I'll,
we-
I'll,
well, maybe just, I got it. I
I'll
don't
print
know.
out copies, I'll leave them in my office, or with Jana.
You print out copies that we could, is this accepted, or that's gotta be voted on too?
It's part of this. It's all part of it.
But that's not gonna change, right?
It is changed.
No, I mean, now it's not gonna change further. Can you print them out and give them to us, and we can use them?
We'll have to
after
change
this is
the
passed?
thing about the garages, we're giving them 8 feet, and they can't have.
But that's not on that
detached
zoning
garages.
map.
It's on the zoning chart.
Okay.
So it'll be a week or so before we get the zone. Fine.
Could be tomorrow. I'll go back to office tonight, after the log
I
cabin.
think that's a great idea. It's only a little after 8, why not?
Wouldn't be unusual.
If you want an email, I can email it to you, but we need hard copies that we can fold up and put in our
Hard
books that we have, yeah. Okay, you okay? Everything else?
Jim Dandy.
I have a question
Yes.
for Roger. On the hotel overlay zone,
Yes.
I understood that it's going to be part of the hotel, for lack of a better word, is going to be condos. They'll be individually owned, and the hotel will be run by a management company that'll.
On site, yes.
That'll
The
rent the
the
room.
condos will be the hotel rooms that'll be part of the management. One management, no other
We'll
management.
do the whole building.
Everything has to be run through that rental pool. Nobody can rent out on their own.
A unit, so no owner who owns the condominium unit, there's a certain percentage, can put it, throw it on the.
VRBO or anything, right, right. If you
Well,
want to
they'll
rent
run
your
it through
unit,
the
it would have
office,
to go
but they
through.
can-
Right, they'd
Right.
have to go to,
Right.
because they can't be throwing it on HomeAway and Airbnb.
Right. But they can't be there for long-term residents either. They all have to be hotel rooms.
With a determined maximum stay. Like,
I think it's
That's-
30
that's in
days
there.
or 20 days.
That's all in there.
Okay,
That's it, that's in this thing.
okay.
So that's stuff you
I
should
just
read.
wanted to clarify. I want to understand.
Okay?
And keep in mind, after we get this passed, there's gonna be other changes. I mean, as things come along.
It's just
The
easier
front
if
yard
we
set-
have them to get it done now, though, get it in there. Anything else? Jim, would you like to make a motion?
Yes.
What would that motion be?
Make a motion?
To what?
Second motion? To adjourn.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.